Well, very simply, I work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Research Service. I've been in the same job for the last, 30, almost 35 years, 34 years now. And so I very much enjoy the work I do. It's mostly associated with fermented and acidified foods and pickled vegetables. And I've really enjoyed the kind of work I do. And I like the opportunity to travel as well, and very much enjoy kimchi. Well, I'm very excited about it. I have spent many visits to Korea. I've enjoyed the kind of research that goes on there, because if you work with fermented foods, really Korea is the place you have to go. And so there's not that many researchers in the US working on vegetable fermentation. There's a lot of people working on dairy fermentation, but not so many on pickled vegetables. And so this work is something that our research lab has focused on for many years. So it makes me very happy to have the recognition. It's a great honor for me to be selected for this position as Kimchi Ambassador, and I'm very pleased. Well, I was a little unsure when I was asked to do this, and being a U.S. Department of Agriculture scientist, I had to, get permission, and they asked me, well, what are you going to do? And my thought was, well, it's what I've been doing. Give lectures, talk, meet with people, and work with fermented foods. And so my thinking is that the kind of things that I usually do, which is give lectures and do research, is what I hope to continue to do, and look forward to working with WeKim and this organization, because it's a great opportunity to improve our relationship, our collaborations, and our research work. Wow. So, I became very good friends with a Korean scientist when I was in graduate school. A fellow student, Dr. Kim Jae-ho, who is retired. He was for many years a professor at Kyungsung University in Busan. And we became very good friends, and he introduced me to Korean food. His wife was there. He had two small children. One is now a physics professor, and the other is a BBC reporter in Seoul. So they have grown. But also his wife is a PhD biochemist, and she got her degree at the same time. This was at the University of Kansas. Dr. Kim and I were in microbiology department. His wife was in biochemistry. And that's my first memories and knowledge of Korea. I had opportunity to visit fairly early on in my career, because we had invited a number of Korean scientists to come and work in my laboratory. And so after some period of time, I was invited to give talks in Korea as well. And so that started the ball rolling. Oh yeah, indeed. I was at that time. I was not studying vegetable fermentation. My original PhD work was in molecular biology, and this was in the 1980s, in the very early days of cloning and sequencing. And so Dr. Kim, Kim Jae-ho, he and I worked in different fields. Jay, I call him Jay because that was his American name. Jay and I worked late at night a lot, and he worked with something called disulfovibrio, which is an organism that metabolizes sulfur, and it smells really bad. And so no one wanted to talk to him because his laboratory always was kind of stinky. I worked with Staph aureus, and I was working on cloning and sequencing in gram-positive bacteria. So I spent a lot of time at his house as well, and I enjoyed their kimchi, and I said, wow, this is really good. And so Hei Young, his wife, explained to me, well, you can make this. And I said, oh, I don't know. And she explained to me and showed me how. And ever since I've been making kimchi, now I know much more about it and much more about the microbiology. But I still make it at home very frequently, mostly in the winter because I ferment it out in a shed I have out in my backyard. So very much. And I like to eat kimchi with that, but we eat kimchi with all kinds of things. My wife likes kimchi as well. I make a special kind of kimchi for us to eat together because she prefers kimchi with more ginger, less garlic. And so I make one that's very basic, just cabbage, green onions, ginger, garlic, salt. That's basically it. And we both love it. And so it's a pleasure having that together because we can eat it with all kinds of meals. With rice, typically. We cook all kinds of food. We cook Chinese type food. We cook Korean food. I have some very good Korean cookbooks, and there's Korean grocery stores here in Raleigh. We have, a big university, 3 universities right in a very close proximity. NC State University, where I work, Duke University, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And they're all in 20-minute drive of each other, 15, 20-minute drive. And so they're all very close. And we have large international communities. So we have opportunity to buy many different kinds of food ingredients. There's a very large Korean grocery store called H Mart here in Raleigh, well, in Cary, actually, next to Raleigh. And we can go and buy everything we possibly want. And so I have access to everything I need. Yeah. But we eat it with rice. I use Korean chopsticks too. I learned how to do that in Korea. And so I bought a beautiful set of Korean chopsticks when I was one of the times I was in Korea. And my wife has learned how to use them. She's visited Korea with me. And so we have traditional Korean meals with Korean chopsticks and spoon, and everything is nice. And if we're at the store, I often buy the white kimchi in the bag, which I like too. I like it very spicy, but I also like it many different kinds, many different ways. My wife is not a big fan of radish kimchi, so I generally don't buy that or make that so much. But I like it a lot. I usually don't eat it though, because we eat together. So, but I also like the kind that I make, which is a little, like I said, a little bit different flavors. But we both enjoy many kinds of kimchi. I think it's great. And, it's not just me. Restaurants, people are excited about the flavors. You get and it's not just, I have to say, it's not just kimchi. There's many fermented foods coming into the US now. And many people are very excited, particularly chefs at restaurants. And they're introducing these foods because they want to make bold new flavors in their products and their food and attract people, and people are beginning to demand them. When I was a kid, I grew up in the 1960s. Okay, I was born in the late 50s. So in the 1960s, and I was growing up in a small college town in Ohio. And when we went to the grocery store, when I was a kid, the grocery store had carrots, potatoes, cabbage, not the kind of cabbage that you make kimchi out of, the round cabbage, onions, and meat, and milk and eggs, and that was about it. Okay, and that's what we ate, because the variety that we have now, the grocery store didn't have many different things. Now you go to a grocery store, there's thousands of different things at the grocery store, stuff you never even heard of. And so I've seen this change, and I love it. I love it. I love it that in Raleigh, there is an outstandingly good Korean restaurant in Cary, a town right next to Raleigh, kind of a suburb of Raleigh. There's 2 or 3 really good Korean restaurants. There's a huge Korean grocery store, but there's also many other kinds. I can get the same thing with Indian cuisine from India, with Chinese food, Chinese cuisine from China. All of these different regions have now food in the U.S. and specialty stores. You can go. People are excited about it. One of the slides I give slide presentations, and I have a slide presentation that shows it was from 15, 20 years ago. And the slide comes from there. I didn't take the picture. It was a picture I found on the web. And it was a Korean guy standing outside of a bus that was painted red. And on the side of it, it said kimchi bus. And there was the mayor of, Montgomery, Alabama. The mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. This is a town in the South in the U.S. here. And they wouldn't know what kimchi was at all back then. And this Korean guy is standing there at a podium with the mayor, and they're all smiling. And this bus was traveling around the South saying, "Hey, look at this! We've got this great food." And that was kind of when the culture was changing, just starting to change. And so I don't know who sponsored that, but it's something that I point out to people that, yeah, this culture is changing. And you can read magazine articles, food magazines, chefs magazines, and they all talk about the explosion of flavors, the wonderful changes they can get with these new flavors of kimchi and other fermented vegetables. So it's an exciting time. And we're no longer a uniform culture. We take many cultures and we blend them. The U.S. is kind of good at that. We get people from everywhere here, and so it's exciting for a lot of folks. Some people it's scary. Some people say, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't want that." But most people, I think, are adventurous and will try it, and then they go, "Wow, that's good. I want to have more of that." And so it's changing. It's really good. Yeah, well, as I said, I've worked on food safety for a number of years, and one thing that we don't yet fully understand is precisely how quickly the good bacteria in kimchi, the lactic acid bacteria, cause the bad bacteria, the pathogens, the ones that can cause disease, they die off and the good bacteria grow. And so what we want to do is be able to more precisely predict exactly when that happens. Because there can be health problems if you don't ferment the kimchi long enough. if cabbage that gets used is contaminated in a farmer's field, by accident or because people weren't using the right agriculture practices. So we have to make sure as researchers and as people guiding, the food industry or helping the food industry, that we can give them good recommendations. And right now, people producing these foods know they have a pretty good idea of exactly what they have to do to make the food safely. But regulatory agencies, the Korean Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, USDA, they want to be able to say precisely and have guidelines. And while I think most of the commercial producers are very, very good at what they do, it's good to have those specific definitions. And that's something that I think is coming in the very near future and that's what I'm working towards, that goal with folks at WeChem, the idea using these buffer models to make predictions, because we can predict the pH, we can predict the safety. And so that's what we're trying to do. Sure, I can give it a try. I'd like to just say in general, though, that there are lots of folks who are interested in kimchi as a fermented vegetable. A year or two ago, in December of 2022, I was invited to a Korean Fermented Food Forum in Washington, D.C. It was sponsored by an organization called, from Korean Agro Fisheries Food Trade Corporation. And so there's that organization. I also work with the Fermented Foods Association in the U.S. called the Fermentation Association. And then WeChem, of course, is probably the main one that's directly working with kimchi. And so to have that resource for me as a researcher, when I heard that they were building in Gwangju this wonderful research facility to study kimchi and promote it as well, I was very excited. And I think that folks who don't know about this institute and what they do may want to know about it, because having research done and understanding these kinds of foods is a marvelous thing, because we can do good science that will help make better products, healthier products, and what can be bad about that? It's all good. And so so I'm very excited that the Institute is there. I was actually there at the groundbreaking many years ago when they were putting shovels in the ground and turning the dirt over to build the buildings. And that was a fantastic time for me. But I think that Institute, WeChem, is a world leader. There's nobody else doing that work with this product. And to have it devoted solely to one product, and to be able to focus many researchers on this is fairly is rare in the world. And so you have a resource that's fantastic. And I'm honored and pleased to be able to work with WeChem and the WeChem scientists. By the way, Dr. Park, I mentioned, Park Hae-woong, is going to be coming to the U.S. in July. We're having a meeting of the International Association for Food Protection, and we have invited him to come to that meeting to present some of his work on food safety, because that's a food safety meeting with kimchi, and we'll both be speaking in the same session, and it will be a very exciting time for me to see Dr. Park again, and he can tell us more about some of the good work that they're doing at WeKid.